MSW Media.
So now it's clean up on aisle 45 time. And for a long while yet, it is going to be clean up on aisle 45.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 237 of Clean Up on Aisle 45. 237. It's Wednesday, August 6th, 2025. I'm Allison Gill.
Hey, y'all. I'm Harry Dunn. All right, so we got a lot to cover today. All right, so the Milwaukee case, y'all remember that, Judge Hannah Dugan. And we're also going to talk about the Texas governor threatening to fine, arrest, and remove House Democrats who have fled the state in protest of the new maps. Republicans are trying to cheat, gerrymander, all that stuff. So,
yeah. And Kathy Hochul spoke pretty vehemently against that today. And we know that they're finding safe harbor in Illinois. I feel like I'm in a third world country right now. All right. We do have some good news to report this week. We'll do this at the end of the show. Jeffrey Clark has been recommended for disbarment. So that's good. And an old lawsuit brought by Devin Nunes has been thrown out by the judge. We also are going to talk about Berkman and Wool. Remember those two jerks? I was going to say a different word. But they've pled guilty to a bunch of felonies, which is good. In Michigan, we'll talk about that. But first, we are honored to be joined by the founder and executive director of Lawyers for Good Government. Please welcome Traci Feit Love to Clean Up on Aisle 45. Hi, Traci. How are you?
Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
It's really good to talk to you. I'm so glad that we're going to get the opportunity. We've had some folks from Lawyers for Good Government on the Daily Beans before and talked about all the good work you're doing. Let everybody know, let all the listeners to Clean Up on Aisle 45 know about the work that Lawyers for Good Government does.
Sure. So at the most basic level, we mobilize lawyers, thousands and thousands of them across the country, to engage in some of the most important fights of our time. And that includes protecting the rule of law in our democracy. It includes fighting for civil and human rights. And it also includes fighting against climate change and in favor of environmental justice. So that's a wide range of issues, but the common thread is that in every issue area where we work, we mobilize as many pro bono attorneys who want to work with us. And that has meant that in our first 8 years as an organization, we have been able to deliver more than $100 million worth of pro bono legal services. And in this year alone, we're on track for $50 million in pro bono legal work. So we're really proud of that, really grateful to the volunteers. And hard to believe that we've been around since November of 2016.
$50 million, you said, on track this year, and in previous years it was $100 million?
Yes, it took us 8 years to get to a total of $100 million, but this year alone we're at 50.
So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the pace of the services isn't because of inflation. It's because there's so many cases going on. Is that accurate? Or is the rate of being a lawyer cost gone up? Or is it a little bit of both?
Definitely not due to inflation. But I think it's two things. I mean, it's both the demand for the work and also the fact that we've been able to grow. Every time we add a new staff member, that means we're able to mobilize tens or dozens of additional pro bono attorneys. And when we first started out in 2016, in fact, for our first 3 years, I was the only full-time staff member, whereas we now have a staff of 42 in 17 states across the country. That makes a huge difference. The staff are what make all of the pro bono work possible.
Right. And that's interesting that, you started in November 2016. Did something happen in November of 2016 that I can't take me back?
It was
the Cubs just won the World Series. Is that what kicked it off?
A lot of riots in the Cub cities,
There was, in fact, a presidential election that month. And the day after the election, I went on Facebook, as many others did. And I really wasn't looking. I had no idea that it was going to become the organization we are today. I just went looking for some other lawyers who wanted to talk about what just happened and maybe brainstorm some ways that we could make a difference. I thought I'll get like 10 lawyers together, 15 lawyers. Actually, 125,000 lawyers joined the Facebook group I ended up creating, which is 10% of all lawyers in the United States, all of them looking for ways to offer their expertise, their services, their time, and in many cases, their money to help make this vision a reality. And that's how we started. So we started through just an avalanche of energy from attorneys who wanted to make a positive difference.
So when you say, November 2016, obviously is, no surprise, obviously Donald Trump and his policies and everything that's going on. But something like this, This is nonpartisan. Yes? No?
It absolutely is nonpartisan. Yeah. Our goal was not to, and in fact, we never have worked with any political party, endorsed political candidates. The goal was to figure out, based on the campaign promises that were made and some of the rhetoric that we heard during that election, what, if anything, could lawyers do to protect civil rights, to protect human rights, to protect freedom of speech, to protect immigrants in an environment where we expected to have an administration that was going to pursue relentless attacks against those individuals. So it really wasn't based on a political party. And we had many, many attorneys in our original Facebook group who were either independent or Republican, but still felt that on these particular issues, they needed to do what they needed to do to uphold their oath to the Constitution and to ensuring that our government is actually representative of the people.
Yeah. And I mean, the law is the law. Certain members of certain parties tend to fall on one side or the other of the law. But that's one of the great things. Now, I mean, I say that with this particular Supreme Court sitting atop the judicial system, the law doesn't seem to be the law anymore, or at least it's not as predictable as it used to be. People, what do you think the Supreme Court's going to be? Like 10 years ago, I'd be like, oh, well, this clearly is this. And now I can't make those determinations at all. But one of the main reasons I wanted to talk to you today is that you just launched something called the Pro Bono Litigation Core. So tell us about what that is.
Thank you. Yeah. Of all the types of work that we've done in our first 8 years, we never as an organization focused on litigation, particularly impact litigation. And that was for a few reasons, the most important of which were that there were so many other impact litigation organizations doing nothing but that, and so many major law firms that were willing to accept case referrals. So we could put on, for example, legal clinics serving hundreds and hundreds of clients. I'll give you an example. Just at the beginning of this administration, we launched something called the Fund Protection Clinic, where we have been working with 850 federal grantees whose programs or funding was abruptly cut. We weren't working with them so we could litigate their cases. We were working with them so we could understand what was happening on the front lines and provide direct guidance from pro bono attorneys on how to maximize the funding that was available to them and preserve their rights. But in the past, when we got to a point with particular clients where the only remaining remedy was litigation, we could refer that case out and it was no problem. But that has changed as a result of the Trump administration's attacks on large law firms. And so what we realized was between those attacks and the capacity constraints that so many nonprofit legal organizations are facing, we would need to build our own in-house litigation team in order to be able to provide assistance to our clients in the way we wanted to. But of course, being the organization we are, we didn't want to do it just with staff attorneys. We wanted to figure out how we could bring pro bono attorneys into the fold, particularly those who have no other way to contribute their expertise. Most impact litigation organizations don't have a system or an infrastructure set up that allows for individual litigators, even those with decades of experience, to volunteer on a particular case. We wanted to figure out how to make that happen, and we think we have, and we're really excited to be getting that off the ground. We've already had hundreds of individual lawyers sign up to volunteer.
Lawyers are expensive.
They are.
And a lot of times, as we've seen with this administration, they fight you in court, not because they know they're going to win, because they want to break you.
Yes.
And a lot of innocent people have been put through that and put through the ringer. So this isn't like a firm. Is this like a database where people can go to find representation, people that may need it, people that are whistleblowers or people whose rights are being infringed upon, government employees? Like, who is this for? Who are you targeting? Are these the wrongfully terminated federal workers that we've seen in so many cases? Are these whistleblowers that went before the Judiciary Committee and they weren't heard? Or who is your target audience here?
Yeah, so that is a really important but also complicated question to answer because we're so new in this particular space. I can tell you as an example, our first piece of litigation, which we initiated about a month ago in co-counsel with 3 major environmental justice organizations, was on behalf of a putative class of environmental justice grantees. So the same type of people, and in some cases the same people that we were helping through our legal clinic, which was providing one-on-one direct representation between a pro bono attorney and an individual client. Many of them now are engaged with us in this litigation to try to get back $3 billion worth of federal funding that was meant to be invested in community projects. Things like, let's remove lead from drinking water. Let's bring down energy costs in poor communities. Let's figure out how to ensure that all of the impacts of the destruction of our climate are not being laid directly on top of the most vulnerable communities. So that's an example of the type of litigation that we can engage in, but we're looking at starting with subject matters where we have worked in a non-litigation context. So for example, right now our biggest projects, of course, we work in clean energy and environmental justice, but also reproductive care, gender affirming care for trans people. We're working on immigrants' rights, and we're trying to put together a program to help send attorneys to detention centers where people are being treated so inhumanely, most with no criminal history or criminal convictions in their past. So there's a lot of different types of work that could be done. But given the initial size of our team, we have to start with referrals and with cases where we have the in-house expertise to be able to move that forward. So I would love for us one day to be able to say, hey, anyone who needs a pro bono litigator, fill out this intake form and we'll match you up. But I think that's going to be down the road a ways. In the meantime, we have to build out this team and get our systems in place.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Amazing. And you had mentioned, and I kind of want to go back to this huge gap left by the capitulating big law firms that are, or they haven't capitulated, but they're chilled on representing government or fighting against the government because, for example, we're still, pending litigation on whether they can even set foot in a federal court building. Talk a little bit more about the gaps that are being filled in by your organization with that complete. They're trying to this government's trying to wipe out big law firms that would normally step in and represent clients in these capacities and in these cases. So talk a little bit more about that gap. What are you seeing? Is it huge? Is it massive? Are you finding that there's just a considerable drop-off of law firms willing to represent people against the government right now?
There is a very meaningful gap, but the gap isn't because 9 particular law firms decided to enter into these agreements. The gap is because the existence of those executive orders and the agreements that followed has created a chilling effect on every major law firm across the country. There are some exceptions, but for the most part, at this point, what we're looking at least from my point of view, is political extortion that is designed to stifle access to justice. The goal of these executive orders wasn't to shut down big law firms. It was to shut down the ability of individual people, individual communities, and individual organizations to find pro bono or free legal counsel when their rights are being trampled. That was the goal, to make it harder and harder for anyone whose rights are being violated by this administration to be able to challenge that in court. And if they find that suddenly the largest law firms in the country and in the world are no longer able or willing to take those cases, then where do they turn? And there are a lot of really incredible, impressive organizations that are working in this space and doing everything they can to shore up those resources. And that includes organizations like Democracy Forward, like Public Citizen, so many others, including the ones we co-counseled with, the Southern Environmental Law Center, Earth Justice. It goes on and on. But there's only so much that any organization or group of organizations can do. It's one of those situations where there will almost certainly never be enough lawyers, just like we saw in the first Trump administration, when all of a sudden millions of asylum seekers needed urgent legal assistance. There's no way we were ever going to be able to provide lawyers to every one of those individuals. Same thing is true now, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. And so that's what we're doing. We're trying.
Yeah. So you just said there's obviously you can't represent every single person that needs and deserves representation. Class action suits, though.
Yes.
Is that
they're making a comeback.
They are. I'm about to say, isn't that we've seen something obviously with these with the Supreme Court recently ruling about how federal judges can't enter these injunctions and affect the whole country.
That's right.
But they did leave the door open for these class action lawsuits. Is that something y'all are looking to pursue? Like, depending on what the topic is, like you just said,
Absolutely.
Everybody can't be represented, but they can.
23B.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So talk about the class action suits and how those may be making a bigger comeback and a bigger splash going forward.
Yeah, I mean, this Supreme Court has given us no choice when it comes to what you've described as basically the difference, at least in our minds, between individual direct legal representation for one person in one matter versus trying to litigate a case that will have an impact and help tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions of people. And that's what nationwide injunctions and some of these, constitutional litigation matters originally were designed to do, was to help protect the rights of people while a case is being litigated without having a different rule apply depending on whether you're in this state or that state or whether your name was on the suit or not. And now we don't have that tool as available to us. So that brings us to class actions. Class actions can help. They're not as broad of a solution as I wish they were. There are a lot of challenges with class action lawsuits, but again, it's one of those instances where you have to try. And so that's what we've done, in our very first case as Pro Bono Litigation Corps. It is a class action lawsuit because there are hundreds of grantees that are going to be affected. And if we tried to litigate each case individually, it would be so resource intensive as to be nearly impossible. It would also take forever. So we hope that class actions will be an important component of our program because that does allow for a broader impact with less resources. But of course, that's also why it's harder to make them work because this administration doesn't want them to work, right?
Of course.
Well, the Supreme Court did a lot to sort of narrow the functions of class action lawsuits, and the nationwide injunction was a workaround to that. So now we're going back to the old ways. And then you've got, of course, the habeas claims that can be district only when you're talking about stuff like the Alien Enemies Act case. So that really, I think, explodes the number of lawsuits and litigation and cases that have to be represented. So the work that you're doing is super invaluable. And along those lines, can you let everybody know, first of all, if there's a lawyer listening and they want to get involved and help and volunteer with Lawyers for Good Government and the Corps here, where they can do the Pro Bono Litigation Corps, where they can do that, and then for non-lawyers listening, how they can support the work of what you're doing.
Thank you for asking that question. The easiest way to get there, I'll provide a short link. It is l4gg.org/PBLC, which stands for Pro Bono Litigation Corps. I also know writing down URLs in the middle of a drive or something is impossible. So you can also just go to our website. If you do a search for Lawyers for Good Government, there's stuff about the Pro Bono Litigation Corps right on our homepage, and it's easy to click through. There's a volunteer form for those who want to help. And for those who want to donate, there's a fundraising form there. If you're someone who is capable and interested in making a larger gift, you can also reach out to us. Just email us. You can check out the contact page on our website. We're happy to hop on a call and talk about how your funds can go a really long way by investing in this program. So thank you. Our website is lawyersforgoodgovernment.org.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Traci Feit Love, best name in the law business.
Love. We love that.
That's what you do. That's what you do for a living. So thank you so very much for coming in and giving not only this information, but doing the work, filling those gaps where people need this litigation. And again, the causes that you choose are just so important. And thanks for letting everybody know where they can help. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Traci.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
All right, everybody, stick around. We'll be right back after this quick break. Nobody wants to spend summer budgeting around surprise wireless charges. Whether it's weekend getaways, barbecues, or just lazy afternoons in the park, your phone plan should make life easier, not more expensive. Enter Mint Mobile. We'd like to thank our new sponsor, Mint Mobile. You can get this new customer offer and your 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/cleanup. Mint offers unlimited talk and text with high-speed data, all on the nation's largest 5G network. And right now, you can get 3 months of unlimited service for just $15 a month. That's premium coverage for less than a couple of iced lattes. You don't need a new phone either, nor do you need a new number. You can bring everything with you, your phone, your number, your contacts, and because it's all digital, you can make the switch in minutes. Harry, you decided to try it for yourself, and you had unlocked your Android phone sitting around and figured, why not? And a few days later, your SIM card arrived and setup took less than 10 minutes, right?
That's right. I kept my number, I kept my contacts, and it was so easy to switch over just like that. It was done in a cinch.
Cool. And so this year, everybody skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get the new customer offer and your 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/cleanup. That's mintmobile.com/cleanup. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
All right, y'all, welcome back. What a great talk that we just had. But now we're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about what's going on in Texas right now. The Times has reported that Democratic members of the Texas House of Representatives left the state on Sunday in a last-ditch attempt to stop Republicans from adopting an aggressively redrawn congressional map. Their absence is expected to prevent the House from reaching the quorum needed to hold a vote this week. The walkout was a sharp escalation in the bitter partisan clash over a mid-decade redistricting in Texas that was requested by Donald Trump. Republicans in the state legislature were rapidly moving forward with the map, drawn to flip 5 Democratic congressional districts to favor Republicans, being passed out of 2 committees over the weekend.
Yeah, it made it through 2 committees. And hours after the Democrats departed Texas, Governor Abbott responded with an escalation, declaring that their walkout amounted to an abandonment or forfeiture of an elected state office, which is not true. If they do not show up for a scheduled floor debate on the maps on Monday, Abbott said he will invoke a legal opinion by the Texas Attorney General, who's, I think, under indictment for fraud, and take steps to remove the missing Democrats from membership in the Texas House. Yeah, it's not going to work. Because Politico reports that Abbott's legal threat against the Democrats probably doesn't have the teeth it appears to. It could take months to resolve, and it's not even certain to work, even if he wins in court. Because for one thing, Abbott and Paxton have to file quo warranto actions to ask courts to remove 51-plus Democrats from office. Those must be filed on an individual basis in multiple districts with outcomes that could vary widely. Are there enough lawyers? And even if Abbott wins a clean sweep in court, which he probably won't, he's then left with 51 vacancies to fill via time-consuming, expensive special elections, which would probably just put new Democrats back in office.
It's kind of like, all right, do it. Then you'll just elect and put more Democrats in there. But back to the story in the Times, even before Abbott's threat, the ultimate outcome for Texas Democrat was far from certain. The walkout could delay action in the legislature for several weeks or more, but comparable past attempts to block Republican legislation and redistricting in Texas eventually failed. Most of the Democratic lawmakers who took part headed to Chicago shortly after 5 p.m. Central, and Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois is in weighing whether his state will respond to the move in Texas by redrawing its own congressional maps in the Democrats' favor.
I hope they do. I hope they start now. I want to see the maps. Like, where's the maps?
Let's do it.
The Texas Democrats, by the way, who flew to Chicago, stood with Mr. Pritzker during a news conference late Sunday at a local Democratic Party office near the city. Quote, "This is not just rigging the system in Texas," Pritzker said of the Republicans' efforts. "It's about rigging the system against the rights of all Americans for years to come." Now, a smaller group of Texas Democrats was going to New York, where they were expected to meet with Governor Kathy Hochul on Monday. She has also been looking for ways that her state could respond to the Republican move.
And this quote, "We're leaving Texas to fight for Texans." This is from Gene Wu. He's a state representative from Houston, and he's also the chair of the Democratic caucus in the Texas House. He said this Sunday, "We're walking out on a rigged system that refuses to listen to the people we represent." Mr. Wu faulted Mr. Trump and Greg Abbott for pushing the redistricting forward in a special legislative session before lawmakers had taken action on a response to the deadly flooding in the Texas Hill Country. Mr. Wu, who was traveling to Illinois, suggested that the walkout could last through the rest of the 30-day special session, which was scheduled to end in late August and possibly beyond. "As of today, this corrupt special session is over," said Mr. Wu.
Yeah. Now, the action had the support of the national Democratic groups and required coordination among nearly all Democrats in the Texas House. For the House to conduct business, as we know, at least 2/3 of its 150 members must be present, and they are now reporting that there is no quorum since they've left. There are 62 Democrats in the House. At least 51 would have to take part for the walkout to be effective. And the number of those taking part was well over the threshold. As I said, they have reported there is no quorum, and that's according to a person with knowledge and now public reports. Quote, "We didn't start this fight. Donald Trump started it." That's what Ramon Romero said, a Fort Worth area Democrat, in a video recorded from the tarmac at an airport in Austin. He said, "You see me? Look here. Bye."
I love that. I love that type of energy.
Yeah.
Ken Paxton, that guy, the state attorney general, said on X that the Democrats who try to run away like cowards should be found, arrested, and brought back to the Capitol immediately. He has promised to work with the state and federal authorities to bring back absent members. In addition to threatening their removal, Mr. Abbott said that the absent Democrats may also have committed felonies if they accepted money to pay any potential fines they would face under House rules.
Right. Texas Democrats have been discussing this possibility since July 21st, apparently. And some Democratic members appeared to be apprehensive about the walkout because the Republican majority in the House adopted new rules that impose a fine of $500 for each day a member is absent without permission. That's why I love that they're going to Chicago. Mr. Pritzker has money.
I think he can afford
But now
that.
he wants to, Paxton wants to charge them if they accept it. But even so, national Democrats, including the DNC, urged Texas Democrats to use whatever tactics were at their disposal. The fines could potentially be challenged in court as well. Quote, "We will fight alongside them to stop this anti-democratic assault." That's Ken Martin, chairman of the DNC, in a statement on Sunday.
A group of Texas Democrats flew to Chicago last month to meet with Mr. Pritzker. They were assured that the governor and his team would support them if they choose to go to Illinois, according to a person familiar with the discussions. Mr. Pritzker's staff has been providing logistical support, including determining where lawmakers could stay and offering office resources, the person said.
Yeah, I mean, he owns Hyatt hotels. Pritzker does. So that helps. And, you know, you have to keep in mind, a lot of these lawmakers, first of all, they get paid $600 a month.
Exactly.
To be House representatives in the Texas House. And so they all have jobs. And so they're having to walk away from these too. And though Illinois has offered a safe haven, some Texas Democratic members expressed concern that Trump would try to use federal agents to round up the legislators, bring them back to Texas. And it was not immediately clear whether there would be a legal basis for doing so, since the lawmakers would be violating state legislative rules and not federal law. So you can't use federal cops to go after
somebody who broke a rule,
a state legislative rule. The Texas lawmakers decided not to go to D.C. this time because they did this in 2021. You'll remember, because of a federal jurisdiction in the Capitol. They didn't want to go there. That's according to a person with direct knowledge of the effort. Previous walkouts by Texas Democrats against the solid Republican majority have also been mounted in what they say was a defense of voting rights. They did this, like I said, in 2021 against a couple of Texas House bills that would, suppress a lot of votes. Many of the members who left the state this Sunday had also left the state in 2021.
Yeah, that's correct. In 2021, Texas Democrats walked out hoping to block legislation on voting that they said would diminish representation for Black and Hispanic voters across the state. In response, the Republican Speaker of Texas House issued civil arrest warrants for the absent members to force them to return. None of the members were actually arrested in 2021. But after nearly 5 weeks' absence, 3 Democrats broke ranks and returned to the state capitol in Austin, allowing the House to achieve a quorum and pass the legislation in a new special session called by Mr. Abbott. The legislature also adopted new district maps after the Democrats returned.
Yeah. So, I mean, the special session ends at the end of August, but the governor could just recall them every 30 days, just renew them every 30 days till forever. But we'll see what ends up happening here. We'll see if, again, back in 2021, those 3 Democrats broke ranks and returned. We'll see if that happens in this case. But we'll be...
I'm proud of them for doing this. I mean, this is, they're being threatened by thrown in jail, and nothing. Trump's ready to throw anybody that's a Democrat in jail. So, I mean, they're putting a lot on the line right here and standing up for, people of Texas, but you're standing up for a lot of people that believe in democracy. So if y'all hear this, or, thank you, because it's not just the people of Texas that you're fighting for. Although you represent them and they're lucky to have you, we're thankful for you too all across the country. So thank you for fighting for all of us.
Right, because the delegation to the U.S. House of Representatives impacts every single American.
Every single one.
All right. Yeah, I totally stand with these. And I love that J.B. Pritzker is helping them out. That's so cool. And that the DNC is behind this. Everybody's behind it. So now we just got to draw our own maps. Come on.
I just say more of this, more of this.
Yeah, this is do something. This is what we mean. So excellent job. All right, everybody, we have to take another quick break. We're going to come back and talk about the Epstein files for a minute and some other cases. But we'll be right back. Stick around. All right, everybody, welcome back. We're going to get into the Epstein files in just a second. But first, we need to thank our new patrons for helping make this show go. So thank you to Cynthia Ludwig, Michelle Cerrito Nazaro, Rhino, Lynn Bentley, and KJ. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. I should say y'all. And we really appreciate you supporting independent media. If you want to become a patron, you get early ad-free episodes, bonus episodes, invites to our Zoom happy hours, in-person galas, and pre-sale tickets to events. You can head to patreon.com/aisle45pod, AISLE45POD. Thank you again for supporting independent media. So, Harry, here on Cleanup on Aisle 45, since the beginning, we cover a lot of lawsuits that attempt to help clean up the messes left behind by Donald Trump and his allies and his administrations. That's why we didn't really change the name to 47, because we're still cleaning up on 45.
A lot of people have asked that. A lot of people have asked, why haven't we changed it? But the mess is still there for 45. So
yeah, we're still working on that stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to let y'all know that our little podcast network, MSW Media, supported by our patrons and our listeners, we've joined the club of organizations that have sued this administration. And while I can only speak broadly about them, I thought we would talk about some of these lawsuits brought by me and MSW Media with the help of National Security Counselor's lawyer, Kel McClanahan.
Yes.
So first of all, the big news is that, I think it was July 20th, I broke some news. I actually got a scoop. I usually just report the news. I don't really break the news.
Yeah.
But because I have so many amazing, wonderful federal employees who trust us, a lot of them come forward and tell us what they want the public to know, because they don't have a voice, right?
Yeah.
And I found out that not only were 1,000 plus FBI personnel instructed to go through 300,000 pages of Epstein files and flag Trump mentions every time his name came up, they were told to flag that. But I also found out that there were training videos, Harry, put out by members of the FBI and the Department of Justice, instructing these FBI personnel on how to find and flag Trump mentions.
Wow.
And how to fill out their spreadsheet and where to turn it in at the end of the day.
Wow.
With the list
Training videos.
And so I spoke real quick to my lawyer friend over at National Security Counselors, and I was like, is this something we can get our hands on? Because the Excel spreadsheet, first I asked about the Excel spreadsheet, and we both sort of determined, well, under FOIA rules and under, privacy laws and stuff, you can't release the names of people who haven't been convicted of a crime, right? Even though Kash Patel does it all the time. You're not supposed to. And so there would be a pretty heavy legal battle to get that spreadsheet of Trump mentions. Or anybody's mentions, really, when you think about it. So we decided to ask for the videos instead, the training videos. And of course, I was like, okay, but won't they call that deliberative process privilege or work product privilege or some sort of privilege?
Yeah, something.
And what we figured out is, even if they do that, if they come back and say you can't have those videos because they're deliberative process privilege, they're covered by this privilege, they just admitted that the videos exist. And so that's kind of the goal here. So we're going to be going forward with this litigation. I can't talk about it too much, although, I think on Monday you can see me on Midas Touch with Katie Fang talking about what I can talk about. But I just want to thank all y'all, because you listen to this show or because you are a patron, both. We're able to do this. And I'm interested to see how it goes. And by the way, we just found out it was assigned to Judge Beryl Howell.
Judge Beryl Howe in Washington, D.C.
In the D.C. District Court. And so the fact that, my name forever on social media has been Mueller, She Wrote. And my podcast network is called MSW Media, for Mueller, She Wrote Media. And my very first podcast ever was about the Mueller investigation. So to be assigned the judge that oversaw the grand jury stuff for the Mueller investigation is just kind of interesting.
In full circle.
So we'll see how that ends up going. But also, aside from those, I've also filed for the grand jury testimony in the Epstein case. I filed a FOIA for that. I've also filed motions to intervene in Trump asking for the grand jury materials. I filed hey, we support Donald Trump here. You should totally release these Epstein transcripts. But what we asked for was to only redact the names of the victims and their personally identifiable information and not any of the perpetrators. So we're doing that. I've also, it seems like years ago, but it was a couple months ago, I've also sued Doge for certain emails. And that's all because of national security counselors. So if you want to help them out, because they're doing this pro bono, like we talked to Traci about earlier, you can help support these efforts by going to nationalsecuritylaw.org/donate. So that's what's going on. I have thrown my legal hat in the ring, and now we can report. So we always talk about lawsuits. And now we're part of one.
And now we're part of one and reporting on it and getting information to share with all of you all. Because listen, good on you, AG. And a lot of people don't realize they have the right to this information. And you and me and we all have rights to this. But this administration goes on hoping that people don't know what's right and to hide it from you literally in plain sight. Well, it was there. They just never asked for it. So good on you for asking for it and fighting for it. And we're rooting for a great outcome here.
Yeah. And we're all sort of part of it here at MSW Media, including the listeners. So thank you so very much. All right. Another quick story. This is some good news. It's kind of got lost in the muck of all the yuckiness that's been going on. John Berkman, 59, of Arlington, and Jacob Wool, 27, of Fairfax, banned for life from securities trading. These two douchebags. Okay. They pled guilty to orchestrating a series of robocalls aimed at suppressing the vote of predominantly Black voters in Detroit in the 2020 general election. And that's according to the Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel. They pled guilty to one count of election law, bribing, intimidating voters, a 5-year felony. One count of conspiracy to commit an election law violation, 5-year felony. One count of using a computer to commit the crime of election law and intimidating voters, a 7-year felony. And using a computer to commit the crime of conspiracy, a 7-year felony. Quote, after 5 years, I'm glad to see this case has finally reached a resolution, Dana Nessel said. Deceptive and racially targeting suppression schemes will not be tolerated in Michigan. My office will continue to pursue and prosecute voter intimidation no matter how long it takes to ensure that Michiganders can exercise their right to vote free from fear and deception.
I've always liked that word, Michiganders. Like, whatever state, Californians, Marylanders. Michiganders is one of the coolest ones. I like that one. Berkman and Wall attempted to discourage voters from participating in the general election by creating and funding a robocall targeting specific and multiple urban areas across the country, including Detroit. The calls were made in late August of 2020 and went out to nearly 12,000 residents with phone numbers registered to an address with the Detroit zip code. They promoted falsehoods that voting by mail would place voters' personal information in a public database that would be used by police departments to track down individuals with outstanding warrants. Voting by mail would place voters' personal information in a public database that would be used by credit card companies to collect outstanding debts. And the Federal Center for Disease Control and Prevention were attempting to utilize vote-by-mail records to track individuals for mandatory vaccines. They put out all the stops on this.
Man, that is just racist AF. I mean, to put the calls out in Detroit to predominantly Black areas to say that if you vote by mail, they're going to come for you with a warrant and you're collecting debts and they're going to force vaccines on you. Like, that is super just horribly targeted, or I should say horrible targeting.
Yeah.
man, and you know exactly what they were trying to do with that BS, right? Now, the robocall actually named Berkman and Wool as responsible for the calls in the robocall and claimed them to be the founders of a civil rights organization named Project 1599. So they were trying to, they were saying, we are Berkman and Wool, and we want to protect Black voters from the perils of mail-in voting. And it closed with a message urging the predominantly Black recipients to not be finessed into giving your private information to the man. Stay safe and beware of vote by mail.
The man, this is nuts.
Yeah. The Attorney General called the robocall an egregious example of voter suppression. There you go. Her words are much better than mine. Following the formal charges from the Attorney General in 2020, both men were bound over for trial. Berkman and Wool fought a bunch of appeals all the way to the Michigan Supreme Court twice, but lost all the times, and that led to their guilty plea just this week. Berkman and Wool will be sentenced before Judge Margaret Van Houten in the Third Circuit Court in Wayne County on December 1st. Now, I assume that these sentences would be served concurrently, not consecutively, because they're all kind of based on the same behavior. But 5 to 7 years, and I think they both have criminal records. They might get 2 to 3 years in prison out of this, which, you know, I'll take it.
It sends a message. And, you know, it's like you said, the Attorney General will go back to her words right there. An egregious example of voter suppression. And I would add and racism too.
It's so racist. Oh, so my racist. God.
So.
Do you remember when Berkman and Wool did that weird press conference and his fly was down the whole time and they were trying to say that Robert Mueller sexually assaulted Jennifer Taub or something? I mean,
or zipper was down.
Or that Elizabeth Warren was having an affair with some gym guy or something. Like, just the dumbest stuff. And they would have the press conferences at Jacob Wool's mom's house because he lived with his mom and not because he was taking care of her. You know,
she was taking care of him.
Yeah, and we really shouldn't like shame people who live with their moms, but.
Yes, we could shame him.
We could shame him, but he's been banned for SEC by the SEC for life because of his past record of fraud. I mean, just asshole pissants. And what is a 59-year-old doing hanging out with a 27-year-old? I gotta
grooming.
I shouldn't, you know.
Maybe into stuff. I don't know.
I don't want to judge, but like. Why? What do they talk about? Right?
Good question. My times have changed when I was a young man.
All right. Like Jacob Wool's all talking about, you know, what's her name? Sweeney and the jeans commercial. And John Berkman's like, I don't know anything about that. But have you seen Jessica Alba? You know, like they just don't really have anything to talk about but fraud.
That's it. That's the thread that binds them is fraud. You into fraud too? Well, come this way. Right. Let me show you something.
I don't know who was on Saturday Night Live. I couldn't name those bands, but fraud I got.
I can tell you all about fraud.
Oh my God. Remember when Lev Parnas named his company for Rudy Giuliani Fraud Guarantee?
Fraud. Yeah. That was kind of awesome, though.
I feel like all the old hits are coming up now that they're going after the Russia hoax and all this other dumb stuff. That was another story that broke today as we recorded this, is that apparently Pam Bondi has told an unnamed prosecutor to take Tulsi Gabbard's Russia hoax criminal referral to a grand jury to see if they can get an indictment. So just
throwing anything at the wall.
Anything to distract.
And, yep, that's it. That's all right. We're not forgetting.
No. Oh, no.
We're not
if you think the Epstein story is going away,
yeah,
you should check the
good
court
luck,
docket because I just sued you. All right.
Good luck, dog.
We have just a couple more stories to get to, including some more good news, but we have to take this last break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
All right, y'all, welcome back. All right, just like Allison said before the break, a few more stories to update you all. First, we have some information in the case against Milwaukee Judge Hannah Dugan. All right, y'all remember that case. You'll recall that the Trump DOJ indicted her for allegedly helping an immigrant evade justice by letting him use a different door to exit her courtroom, one that's right next to the main courtroom doors, by the way. She filed a motion to dismiss on judicial immunity and 10th Amendment grounds, which a magistrate judge recommended be denied. And our update this week comes from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. prosecutors and defense attorneys have split sharply on a magistrate judge's recommendation to allow the criminal case against Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan to move forward.
Yep, and that was U.S. Magistrate Judge Nancy Joseph. She issued a report on July 7th rejecting the argument by Dugan's really good legal team that the charges of obstructing federal immigration officials should be dismissed and recommending U.S. District Judge Lynn Adelman do the same. Adelman is not bound by the Magistrate Judge Joseph's recommendation, by the way. Attorneys for Dugan, a veteran Milwaukee judge, said Joseph was off the mark, the magistrate judge. Quote, "This is a federal criminal prosecution of a state judge for doing her job, not in the way that some federal agents preferred, true, but her job all the same." Prosecutors argued that in their filing on July 29th that Joseph was correct and that Adelman should allow the case to proceed, right? So they're just arguing their points. So I guess in this particular instance, the magistrate judge has made a recommendation on Judge Dugan's motion to dismiss, and now it goes to a district judge, Adelman, and they have filed briefs on both sides to this particular district judge.
Yeah, Judge Adelman has not indicated when he will issue the key ruling. Either side also could appeal Adelman's ruling to the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals in Chicago. The original trial date of July 21st was canceled as filings on the motion to dismiss churned forward, and no new trial date has been set. Yeah. All right, and this is from The Hill. A federal judge has dismissed a lawsuit brought by former Representative Devin Nunes. You know what? When we talk about, all I can think about is the cow, Devin Nunes' cow, whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't even know where that came from, but it's so fun. That's
he all I sued the cow.
Is that what it? Yeah,
he sued Devin Nunes' cow, who is actually a friend of mine. And
I just know the social media handle Devin Nunes' cow, and that is awesome. Like that, it's just that's all I think about it. But the lawsuit dismissed against MSNBC personality Rachel Maddow nearly 5 years ago. U.S. District Judge Kevin Castle ruled last week that Nunes failed to prove Maddow and her team at the network acted with actual malice during a discussion about a package Nunes received addressed to him from Andrew Durkheim.
Andrew Durkheim, yeah, that's a Rudy pal.
You remember a Ukrainian legislator with ties to Russian officials and intelligence services while he was the ranking member of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence.
The HPSI, yes. Everybody remembers Nunes laundering Russian spy information into the intelligence
Now
community.
It's all coming back. Yes.
Yep. Quote, "The court concludes that no reasonable jury could find that NBC made the statement with constitutionally defined actual malice." That's what Castell wrote. Nunes, longtime ally of Trump, sued Maddow in 2021, alleging she and the network harbor an institutional hostility, hatred, extreme bias, spite, and ill will toward the Republican. You know what? Me too.
I'm about to say, that's kind of like all of us.
Everyone hates you, Devin. The suit specifically took issue with statements made by Maddow during her show on March 18th of that year, 2021, during which she suggested that Nunes refused to turn over a package he reportedly received from the suspected Russian agent to the FBI. He wouldn't give it to the FBI. Russian agent. I don't know what it is about these Republicans. Every single time they end up saying they have evidence against a Democrat, it's manufactured by the Russians. Mm-hmm. It's either Alexander Smirnov, who lied and is in jail now. That's the guy who made up the story that Burisma bribed the Bidens for $5 million each or whatever. That was totally made up. He was working with Russian agents. We have this Nunes stuff that he got from a Russian spy. We have the Ron Johnson Russian spy stuff. We have the Hunter Biden laptop.
All of it's manufactured.
How many times are we going to find the new annex from the Durham report that just came out that Ratcliffe released? Those emails saying that Hillary framed Trump were manufactured by Russian spies. Come on, guys.
Come on, guys. Get some new material, yo.
How many times do Russian spies have to fool you before you realize that you're being fooled? Or are you not being fooled?
One of these days, they're just praying it'll work. So, all right. So we don't have any Rudy news or Pillow Man news, but we got some man in his underwear in his driveway news. Jeffrey Clark. The Associated Press reports that the former Justice Department official who aided Donald Trump's effort to overturn the results of the 2020 election should be stripped of his pants. Not his pants, his law license.
His law license is in his pants.
This is according to the Washington Disciplinary Panel. They ruled this on Thursday. Clark, who is now overseeing a federal regulatory office, played a key role in Trump's effort to challenge his election loss to Joe Biden and clashed with Justice Department superiors who refused to back his false claims of fraud. The D.C. Board of Professional Responsibility and Recommendation will now go to the D.C. Court of Appeals for a final decision.
Yeah, I imagine they will disbar him, just like they did with some other great lawyers that came out of the Kraken strike force or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
But I do want to warn that even though he does have a job in the federal regulatory office, disbarment doesn't probably disqualify him from that. So just want to put that out there. I don't think he'll lose his job. But under the second Trump administration, he's been serving as acting head of the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs as part of the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, Russ Vought's joint. And it's responsible for reviewing executive branch regulations. So he's in charge of deciding what Trump is doing is legal or not. At issue in the D.C. bar proceedings was a letter that Clark, as an assistant attorney general in the first Trump administration, drafted that said the Justice Department was investigating various irregularities and identified significant concerns that may have impacted the election in Georgia and other states. And Clark wanted the letter sent to Georgia lawmakers, but the Justice Department superiors, you'll remember Donahue and Rosen, were like, no, hell no. We aren't investigating. We haven't found irregularities. There aren't significant concerns, sir. We're not going to sign the letter. Now, the board said disciplinary counsel proved that Clark made intentionally false statements when he continued to push for the DOJ to issue that letter after being told by superiors that it contained falsehoods, which we also call lies here.
It was bull. Lawyers cannot advocate for any outcome based on false statements, and they certainly cannot urge others to do so, the board's report said. Respondent persistently and energetically sought to do, I like that, and energetically sought to do just that on an important national issue. He should be disbarred as a consequence and to send a message to the rest of the bar and to the public that this behavior will not be tolerated.
This behavior will not be tolerated except for until 5 years after when we disbar you. Clark's conflict with Justice Department superiors culminated, as we know, in a contentious, hours-long shouting match meeting at the White House on January 3rd, 2021, in which Trump openly considered installing Clark as acting attorney general. Several officials in the January 3rd meeting told Trump they would resign if he put Clark in charge of the Justice Department. I remember Hirschman saying, call us when there's an oil spill. And
yes, that was great. I do remember that.
I think Donahue said, if you do this, you will be supervising a graveyard. We will all quit.
Yeah.
Another close Trump ally, Rudy. So I guess there is a little Rudy news, but it's old. He was disbarred in Washington, D.C. last year, months after he lost his law license in New York for pursuing false claims that Trump made about his 2020 election loss. And I just want to make a little clarification here. I know it took a really long time to do this. And now he still isn't actually technically disbarred. But his license, Clark, much like Rudy's was suspended immediately, pending the outcome of the investigation. And Harry, as we know, it's pretty rare for the bar to, usually they do the whole investigation and take a couple of years and then make a recommendation. But because what Clark and Rudy did was so egregious.
I'm about to say the gravity of it, right?
Because it was because they were so bad.
Yeah.
They were like, they put in a recommendation. We have to suspend their law licenses now during the pendency of this investigation. Yeah. We can't wait until the outcome. So they did move pretty quickly to yank their law licenses, at least temporarily. Again, a very rare thing to do, as they usually wait until the end of the investigation to recommend or to do anything with the license. But this will go to the D.C. Court of Appeals. It could take months. Rudy's took like 8 months after the bar.
The bar made the recommendation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so this don't look for that. But maybe we'll get a nice Christmas present. Maybe we'll get.
Well, it makes his life suck even more now. Like his license has been suspended for a while, and he probably got used to it. And now it's like, wait. oh man, now I got to sit with this again. So it's a reminder that, hey, dude, you're not going to be practicing law anymore. So just a reminder.
At least not in D.C.
And who would want him except for some more dumb, well, I guess.
Well, that's the whole thing, right? As soon as all this happened, like with Eastman and Clark and all these terrible lawyers, these big like warnings went up on Bar Association websites saying this lawyer has been indicted. Mm-hmm. And so when people would go, even if they didn't have their law license suspended or anything like that, when somebody would go to look up somebody's bar standing, there would be a big like yellow exclamation point sign.
Caution!
Yeah.
Stay away from this guy.
This bar member has been indicted. What I don't understand is why that doesn't just immediately and automatically
disqualify you,
and then you've got a petition to get it back.
Yeah.
Like that,
not the other way around, yeah.
I mean, I assume that there's probably, it's innocent until proven guilty situation, but like...
Sure.
I don't know.
The bar should be higher, literally. The bar. The bar should be higher.
The bar should be higher.
The bar should be higher for them,
Well, everybody, that's our show. Thanks so much to Traci Feit Love.
Yeah, what a great talk with her.
What a cool thing. Just all those lawyers working together to do pro bono work where it's needed, especially since all these big law firms are bending the knee,
Yeah.
But she's right. It's not just about the firms that are bending the knee. Even the ones that didn't bend the knee are chilled from doing that work. So we really appreciate everything that they're doing. Lawyers for
Be like Texas Democrats. Fight, fight, fight.
Yes, yes. And Democrats, governors, if you're listening, I want to see the maps. Show me the maps.
Yes, can we get those?
Texas already has their maps through 2 committees. I haven't even seen the maps.
See ours, exactly.
Now, maybe it's a timing thing. Maybe they're waiting so that they change it and it doesn't have time to go through the court process by the time we have the election. I don't know, but I feel like it would have to be litigated before you could actually make any changes. And we're running out of time.
I feel like, though, AG, if they put a map out, if Gavin Newsom says, all right, bet, watch this, and he drops a map, then they'd be like, oh, crap, he's not just talking. They actually have a plan. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like maybe something even that would like, all right, hold on, y'all. Like,
I don't think it's going to stop.
I mean, I don't think Texas, so either, sure, but I don't think so. But what if all the other states do it? New York and the solid blue states, and Maryland only has one district. They could redraw that line, and and like, are there any in Connecticut or anywhere that has the trifecta? Or obviously, right? But
yeah, and one thing is true is that let's say all this has to go to court. You can't approve. Well, I don't think they can approve certain states' maps and not others. So I think we would all sort of be in the same boat. Either we all get our maps approved, Texas and California and New York, like the Reds and the Blues, or nobody does. So hopefully the odds stay even. And even when the odds stay even in this case, they're still not. Democrats are still down 7 to 10 points because of already gerrymandering. That exists in these states. But we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. But I support like offense. Go on offense. Get the maps out there. Get the. Gavin Newsom's already lobbied the legislature here. Everybody's kind of backing it. They're drawing maps. I know that, but let's do it. Let's put the foot on the gas and try to get out ahead of it. Anyway, just my 2 cents.
I agree.
I like that they're doing it, and I love what Texas Democrats are doing, and I loved Jasmine Crockett's speech that she gave down at the Texas House before that 15-hour hearing on this, where pretty much everybody who came to speak at that hearing, all the constituents were against this. Nobody was for it. But anyway, we're going to keep an eye on all of it for you. You got any travel coming up, my friend?
No, not within the next 2 or 3 weeks. I'm actually just hanging out and watching this turmoil and reporting on it and embracing my new role as a member of the media. Like, I'm loving it. Well, not what's going on, but, being on the front lines again of, having an opinion and people actually caring about my opinion. So thank you for everybody that cares about my opinion.
You earned it, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, we'll be back next week. If you're a patron, we'll be back in your ears this weekend with our really sweary bonus episode, a lot of F-bombs. And we'll let you know when our next happy hour is going to be. Patrons, if you want to become a patron, again, patreon.com/aisle45pod. We would love to have you if you can swing it. Thank you all so much. We'll see you next week. I've been Allison Gill.
Harry Dunn. Thanks, Joe.
Cleanup on Aisle 45 is written, researched, and produced by Allison Gill, with editing by Molly Hockey. Our art and logo design are by Joelle Reeder and Moxie Design Studios, and our music is composed and performed by Adam Orr. Cleanup on Aisle 45 is a proud member of the MSW Media Network, a collection of creator-owned podcasts dedicated to news, politics, and justice. For more information, visit mswmedia.com. MSW Media.